Would you please let me know if you can see my slide?
Yes.
Yes, it's okay.
Thank you. So I'd like to thank the Working Party 14 Coatings for this opportunity. And before getting to science, let me introduce myself. So as you already know, I did my PhD at UMONS working on this fat. I have a materials background. I graduated in Brazil, but I started to work with corrosion already on the master level at CDMAT in Toulouse. And then, you know, you have a lot of challenges with data when dealing with corrosion. I realized that, and on the postdoc level, I started to shift more towards big data methods. And I did different postdocs in Belgium. I worked with machine learning groups from both VUB and WP in Brussels. And AI really opened my mind because at that time, being Brazilian, I had always thought about doing something in Brazil. And AI was a technology that finally pops up, and I realized we could finally bridge the academic knowledge that we have, because I felt I was always work with super specific knowledge. It was hard to transfer it to the local industries, but AI could give us this possibility to transfer knowledge to the enterprises. So on late 2024, I was talking with my wife. She felt the same. She was also a postdoc researcher at the time, working for UGent in Belgium. And we decided to open our own AI consultancy company. And we have this dual role nowadays. We serve clients, local businesses in the south of Brazil, but we also keep doing research, as we believe this intersection is actually key. And after the talk of Svetlana, I will not spend much time on it, but remember that Svet is a local technique that is able to resolve current density maps from active surfaces. And now let's jump into AI. It's important here, I would like to reframe that. There was a lot of applications, AI applications before 2023. Nowadays, we call it traditional machine learning. And you already know that AI is a big umbrella term. But what does that mean, traditional machine learning? I like this example. In 2015, it was the first time an AI system bet world champion on this game called Go. It's an Asian board-based game, very popular in Asia. And it was all about machine learning there, okay? And when it comes to our field, it's interesting to notice that even before 2023, material scientists were high adopters of AI technologies. And what actually happened in November of 2022, OpenAI launched the ChatGPT. I'm sure most of it have already played with it. And we say that AI is not only discriminative as traditional machine learning, but it is also generative. It is actually able to produce as output the response to a user query. And the user was put on the center of the chat interface. That was the genius idea of OpenAI. But to demystify, when we say generative AI, what is in fact behind the scene is what we call large language models. These models excel in language and they show apparent reasoning. But in fact, all they do, and I will show that to you in a simple example. If I ask you now, where are you sitting right now? This question and the answer to this question depends, of course, on the context. You might answer to me, I'm sitting on a couch, on a sofa, or on a desk, on a chair, right? And it's all it does. It's probabilistic text generation, just predicting the next word in a sequence of words. And how could we use these fancy language models professionally? I was very pleased to find out in the last report issued by McKinsey, the State of AI in 2025, that this special word here, this is a key word, it's called knowledge management, was finally among the most used cases of AI agents in the industry. You all know that nowadays it's very hard to manage knowledge. Knowledge is spread across your notebooks, is spread across the web. And the bottleneck is not anymore access to information, but to curated information, actually. And sometimes we just want a quick check. We just want to confirm something in the research literature, and should not be that difficult. It should not be that difficult to find the information we want. So in that sense, I believe large language models can be very helpful for us. And this can avoid the situation that we scientists often find ourselves reinventing the wheel. So I really believe the future of literature research will be more on the right side of the screen. It's proven that research has more and more started by chatting with traditional LLM like ChatGPT, for instance. But why do I think this type of traditional research is not the solution for us? There are many reasons, but I will give you the two main reasons. First of all, there are intellectual property concerns. When you chat with GPT, or it doesn't matter which other AI technology provider, they use your data to train their models. So there might be data leakage concerns, right? However, I will show to you when we build an assistant, a public assistant such as this vet assistant I will show to you, we don't have this issue anymore, because then the technology providers cannot use your data for that. They don't even have access to the data, to the user data, okay? And the second main reason, I'm sure you already felt it yourself, these two are very generalistic. If you want to get very specific answers for your specific questions, you need to do a lot of effort on prompt engineering and provide a lot of context, okay? Without further ado, let's launch. I'm gonna show you a few demos on this Vet Expert Assistant on live. So this is the web link. You can access it if you want. The interface is quite similar to a ChatGPT interface. The user just do its query on here. For example, Svetlana mentioned that, but about the probes, it's very important to do proper platinization. So I can just type help me with platinization, for example. I just need to further do it or give further context. And let's see what it's gonna get. In the meantime, let me show you more the interface. I'm gonna just open again the same link. And this work was indeed, we developed it within IAlto with the collaboration of Marjorie, Olivier, and Dr. Sajat from UMONS. We have a quiz tab in here. And this is much more convenient. Imagine for a new user, instead of reading a user guide, you can simply go to a quiz and the AI will generate random questions for you. You can attach files as you will, different file extensions. But let me get back to this. Okay, it's still thinking. Great. Of course, platinization. So it's guiding us. It gives us step-by-step instruction on how to perform the platinization. And these are, in fact, my proprietary images from my PhD time. So, of course, you could not get this level of response using a traditional LLM. So it's a very convenient tool on this respect. We can also do live troubleshooting. Imagine you are doing your experiment. It's quite tough experimentally. You can just ask, why I'm seeing oscillations in the baseline? How do I distinguish real activity from electrode drift, for example? But I will just show you another case where we actually attach info. We give more context to the assistant. I will ask, based on this attached map, oh no, I should do it again, because I copy and paste this text, but I should in fact just copy and paste like that. Okay, based on the attached map, what is the predicted coating lifetime? I will just go to a paper from Dr. Sajak, where he developed PO coatings and in fact applied SVET. I will just copy and paste this plot. Let's get back again here. Okay, now it's processing the file. Let's wait 1 sec. And let's get it going. If you realize this is we are testing the limits of the assistant, because if you know SVET, you know it measures some sort of corrosion rate, but we cannot extrapolate like that and ask for prediction of coating lifetime based on SVET measurements. So it does what it can, but without more information. Yes, this is what I was expecting as a response. I can only provide general analysis, so it analyzes, but it cannot do more than that. So it's a very reasonable tool in that sense, so we can validate it. I will show you more demo examples, but I want you to realize that what is impeding scientists to further use these AI tools is the trust. Anthropic very recently issued this report, and they realized that the main enemy for scientists are in fact the AI hallucinations. So I will just come back to the assistant and open a new chat on the right. Let's say we just got a SVET map. It's very complex data. I have it in here. Where is it? And XYZ big data. I just throw it in there. And then I don't want a creative analysis. I just want to know my coating is active, my coating active or not, right? How to avoid hallucination in this case? For that reason, to address this concern of the scientific community, we add this creativity button on the left. This is quite standard for LLM models. They have a temperature control. If you set up to 0, you reduce the creativity level and you reduce hallucination rates. So let's see what it's gonna lead us. You see, in this case, I don't want creativity. I just want to know if my experiment failed or not, basically, if my coating is protected or not. Instead of trying myself to plot this complex data, it's more convenient just to throw it there and ask it. It is an expert on the SVET data, so it interprets the data. It gives references and possibilities of what this coating might be. This is very interesting. All right, let me see. Okay, I would assume, I will not read it through, but I would assume it is active because it provides similar things in the literature where we actually have active corrosion happening. But let's get back to the hallucination. I think as this is our main enemy, it's important to explain a bit. This example for you was to realize that these are two sides of the same coin. Sometimes we want creativity, but sometimes we don't want it, and then we call it hallucination. I'm going to give you another example where, in fact, we would like hallucination. Not hallucination, sorry, high creativity. If we set up to 2, okay, we might have a higher hallucination rate, but sometimes we are in the ideation phase. So I just open here a paper on coating synthesis. It has nothing to do with corrosion, neither with SVET. I will just add this paper in there. And imagine you found this paper in the literature, you got inspired, and you just want to know, how could I possibly use SVET in this context? Attach. Okay, so again, creativity on the left of the screen set up to the highest possible creativity. Here, you tolerate a bit of error because you are in the ideation phase. We scientists, we also do creative work, of course. So it gives, nice, yeah, we can do mechanism of protection, and you should compare with other techniques. I will let you play later. Let's get back to the presentation because it's important for me, as this is our main enemy, to show you how are the main sources of AI hallucinations. First of all, statistical errors. We can do nothing about it because it relates to the foundational LLM model, to the model intelligence. But these two are related to how we organize, we structure the knowledge that the assistant has access to. So when we build an assistant, in fact, we can give to it an external knowledge, like external hard drive disk you add in our computer to give it further memory. So I really like this memory analogy. So again, if you think about the foundational model, the traditional LLM, you have in there its training knowledge and you can do nothing about it. It's the long-term memory of the model. And I'm sure you realize by chatting with GPT, for example, that there's also a short-term memory, which is the info you provide in the context the user provide by the LLM model. But sometimes this context window explodes. For if you are a user, you know that at some point GPT forgets what you're saying, right? And you need to do a lot of effort here. We call it human in the loop. But if you pass from here, to this third option, as I mentioned, you give an external knowledge base to the AI, building AI assistant. It has a persistent memory and retrievable information, okay? And in this case, you don't need to be too much in the loop anymore. You do your effort more building up and creating your knowledge base, and then you can trust the AI intelligence to give relevant answers, okay? In practice, how I built, this is the recipe to build an AI assistant. I rely on the intelligence of the Gemini model, so I use Gemini API for that. As an external knowledge base, I create and revise it together with the help of Marjorie and Sajat, this SVET database. And as internal instructions for the assistant, I just instruct the LLM to focus more on the domain expertise knowledge base and not on its training factual intelligence from this training phase. We also add functions. You can do live web research, and for that you use the API of Perplexity, which, by the way, is the state-of-the-art you can get for reliable references. All of that happens in the user interface, and you also contribute by giving your provided context. But let's spend beyond this fact. I just give you a few examples of what type of assistance could be done. Imagine you can have your lab PO protocol expert, and if you feed up your assistant knowledge base with proprietary information or personal information, then the difference in result you're going to get if you compare traditional GPT with your assistant will be even much, much higher. What we have as perspective for our SVET assistant, I really believe the future is to have this limited scope type of assistant with very niche type of information and low hallucination rates. And the knowledge base we built should be a dynamic thing, right? It's not like a review paper that you write it on and it is a static thing. In here, you could think it as your review paper. And by the way, this is how I would start my PhD today. When writing my bibliography for my thesis, I would simply build an AI assistant that would guide me through the process. Maybe I could even publish a review paper based on that. But in order for this to avoid bias, what we actually have done, let me get back to the main interface. We have this traditional button. You can put anything you want here. I get automatic email from you. Please feel free to criticize it, to comment, to help it to improve. But we also had this quiz feature. And I mentioned the AI generates random questions. But what I have done just before our meeting, like in here, I took this quiz and I got a perfect score, of course, because I know the SVET a lot. But when you are considered a SVET expert, you have the right to go to the next level. If you click here, you can contribute to the expert discussions. There are conflicting points in the literature that we are not so sure. And this is what about science is made of, right? This type of discussion actually leads to progress. So if you get to this stage, you can, if you choose, you can comment on this 21 conflicting information. And then again, I get an email. And we can decide upon improving our AI assistant based on your feedback. Yeah, I just got this test email. Let's just check if it is working. Yes, yeah, and it is anonymous, as you see. Of course, it cannot be. If you prefer to sign, of course, it's not anonymous anymore. So I hope with that, I convince you to be not only a passive user of AI technology and revising the outputs of the AI, but to take a more active role and put the effort on the creation of a knowledge base. And then you can deploy it and you can really be part of the AI era as a creator, not only as a reviewer, which is also fine because it's also part of scientific duty. So I really feel building AI assistants are a perfect fit for us scientists. And before asking to question, a last important slide, we have a new open position for postdoc at UMONS to work, of course, with AI and big data. It's all about getting big data from different electrochemical testing, and it's based on new alloys, additive manufacturing alloys. This project starts on April this year already, and it finishes by the end of 2028. If you have doubts, you can just send an email to Marjorie. A big thank you, and I would be glad to take any of your comments.
Thank you so much, Leonardo. It's a very nice active presentation where we can see how you can use the SVET and to know also how to help to have accurate knowledge by using this kind of tool. And so the time it's we have a question for 1 or 2 questions. I check in the conversation if you have question. No, thanks.
I know we are on the top of the hour. You can always send me an email later on or send me a message through this SVET assistant also with your question. But if you want to hold, I would still be here if you will to discuss with any of you.
Yeah, I would probably make a comment while we are waiting for questions. So indeed, it's very interesting application, and I fully encourage also all, especially new users, to try this SVET AI assistant and use AI tools in your work as much as possible. Of course, as Leonardo mentioned, beware of hallucinations, and all the information needs to be validated. But these tools are becoming more and more reliable, and indeed they often give you not the exact answer, but the possibilities, and maybe unlock some levels where you haven't even thought before. But then this also gives you some new view on the topics that you are now dealing with. So I would fully encourage using this SVET tool. So thank you, Leonardo, Marjorie, and colleagues who have developed this. It's indeed quite interesting and valuable. And also other AI tools. We should use them.
Thank
I think
you.
there's also one question.
Yes. What alloys will be considered in your upcoming project? It's aluminium alloys obtained by additive manufacturing.
Thank you, Marjorie.
Yes.
And there's also one more question there. Does it worth the time that we need to check for possible hallucination? Yeah, it is a very good question. I think yes, because when you do traditional research, you also need to spend a lot of time revising. This is a universal issue. We prefer to set up, let's say, the temperature of scientific production. Let's say we prefer to make it democratic, so you can read a lot of garbage out there on the web. So you also need to do this effort, and it's the same problem here. It's just that maybe you can have your expert database that you curate, and you do it once properly, and time to time you update your knowledge base, and then you don't need to bother every time if this information is reliable or not. This would be my answer to Zara. I don't know if it was clear.
No more question. Alexis mentioned AS7G06 for the alloy. I think it's not this one. No.
I'm not sure, Marjorie.
I am not sure. No.
Yeah, I don't know if Alexi also asked about what is going to be our next AI assistant, let's say. On that, I must say we are going to build more internal use cases, internal AI assistants for internal use cases. Like, for example, imagine your expert on impedance data for your own lab, it doesn't need to be a public tool. You can, of course, use for your internal lab purposes.